You know, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And just when you think this whole Charlie Kirk situation cannot get any weirder, the key witness, the first responder on the scene, who is a cop who came into a suspicious amount of money just months after the Charlie Kirk murder, if he made you feel some sort of way in the pretrial, congratulations, because it turns out he has killed somebody before, a young man, just 10 years, almost to the date exactly before the whole Charlie Kirk thing went down. Yes, there is a corrupt cop who is a key witness and a first on the scene responder in the Charlie Kirk murder case who has killed before. We found the record, so don't you come for me with this Candace Owens or copying Candace Owens things. We found this first. Shout out to Gigi. So I need you to put yourself in this position for a second. Imagine doing your job and having a really controversial moment where somebody dies and then there's questions. And then 10 years later, you're handed another high profile situation where you're also the first on the scene making critical decisions about what goes down next, what the evidence is. That alone would be weird, like lightning striking twice. But it gets even weirder because within months of being a key witness to this nationally prominent Charlie Kirk murder investigation, then this person's bank account suddenly skyrockets, not a little bit, a noticeably documented improvement. Nobody at their agency seemed to notice or ask about it, or maybe they did notice and they just didn't care, or maybe they benefited from it. Either way, if you've ever wondered what the actual reward structure looks like for loyalty to the badge, you're about to find out. These discrepancies should have bothered everyone because we now have to ask the question, did this corrupt cop frame the Charlie Kirk murder? Was there more foul play involved than y'all already suspecting? Because this key witness has a dark past. So Officer Christopher Bagley is the first responder and a key witness in the Charlie Kirk murder investigation. That alone is a job that should come with some credibility. But the more you look at how he handled the evidence and what he chose to report, the more you start to understand why people feel off about his involvement. He found an empty pistol holder on the ground near where Charlie Kirk was shot.
Yeah, as I was clearing people out and making sure that the evidence was preserved, about towards the top, after a little bit, I saw an empty holster sitting there.
And what happened to that holster?
I have no idea.
Did you ever take custody of it?
No.
Did you ever tell anyone else to take custody of it?
No.
And the gunshot, he said, sounded a lot like a rifle crack rather than a handgun pop. So what do you do when you're on the scene of a shooting and you find a gun holster and you're the key investigator? Do you leave it? Do you log it anywhere? Of course not. He made a judgment call in real time and decided that that holster didn't matter. Nothing matters at the scene of a shooting. The prosecutor later had to defend that decision to a skeptical courtroom. And here's what you need to hold on to. In 2015, Bagley made another judgment call about a weapon. And it also went wrong in all the ways that affect people's lives permanently, including ending one of them. Same cop, now we've got two bodies. And then again, 10 years after that, 10 years or so, he famously moved onto the roof of the Losi Center, the place where the shooter was positioned. He radioed dispatch and reported finding an impression in the gravel that looked like a sniper pad. Somebody asked him over the radio about the shell casings, and he responded clearly, "I do not see any casing."
Actually, third, fourth level of the Losi building. Went outside, went upstairs, jumped the bridge wall. I do not see a casing, but it is straight on.
He also didn't mention finding a screwdriver on the radio call. Nothing about a screwdriver. Then months later, while he's sitting on the witness stand at the preliminary hearing, he testifies with confidence about finding a screwdriver on the roof. He remembered it well enough to describe it in the courtroom.
When I got on top, I hopped over the guardrail. I noticed that there was an object which was sitting right about 10 or 15 feet in from the other side of the guardrail in the gravel. That looked out of place to me.
And in relationship to where you hopped over the guardrail, what direction was that object?
To the west of the guardrail.
Okay. And did you recognize the object?
I did.
And what was it?
It was a red and black screwdriver.
Okay.
So if you feel weird about these discrepancies, you should trust your gut. The timeline also seems to feel a little bit weird and not match either. So either he found the screwdriver and forgot to mention it when he was supposed to be documenting a crime scene and mentioning these types of things, or he remembered it at the wrong months later when he's testifying. Both options are problems, and they suggest that his recollection or his procedures or him himself are not reliable. So did this corrupt cop frame the Charlie Kirk murder? Wait till you see what we've found. And real quick, if you're new here, I'm Lauren Paritra, and we have an urgent announcement. Will and I want to let you know this. Stephen Miller has escaped his burrowed nest in the Turning Point USA headquarters frat house. He's somehow become nocturnal, despite also being visible during the day, being seen at times hissing at the sun. He's making little clicking noises in the walls. And the containment team says the only way to stay safe is subscribing. Subscribing to this channel is a great way to stay safe. Finding us wherever you get your podcast, leaving us a 5-star rating or a comment here, 6 words or more. Share this video, hype this video. Every individual action you take to support this channel creates a protective layer around you and Stephen Miller, who's always lurking in the dark, skithering around. So be safe out there. Okay, so first we got to start off with the wealth that nobody's really asking about. Within 10 months of Charlie Kirk's murder, Bagley came into sudden and unexplained wealth. We're talking about a campus security officer who had just served as the key witness in a nationally prominent investigation, and his financial circumstances changed noticeably. And the timing here matters. And you don't need to make an accusation to notice that there's a pattern that feels a little bit off. So nobody in the department seemed to care that he totally fumbled his job and then somehow came into a new position, making double, if not triple, what he was making before, a position with a department that also intersected with him in the Charlie Kirk investigation. And before we even get further into this, here's the thing that really matters and where you need to pay attention to and use your own instincts, because they're probably going to serve you well. Bagley, like I said, was not new to these high profile, very polarizing, controversial situations involving cops and death. He wasn't a fresh-faced rookie showing up at a bad moment. He had done this before. Real quick, today's episode is brought to you by Brickhouse Nutrition. Everyone's talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering your blood sugar and reducing your appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in those painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? Well, that's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it to energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. And let's get you started today with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. You can visit takelean.com and enter code Lauren, that's L-O-R-E-N, for your discount. That's promo code Lauren at takelean.com. Again, 10 years earlier, in 2015, Bagley was involved in another fatal police shooting. A 24-year-old named Cody Evans. The circumstances of that shooting were controversial enough that Evans' family hired a lawyer afterwards and demanded answers that to this day they never really got. But Evans' wife called 911 and told dispatch that Evans had a BB gun and was trying to provoke police into shooting him. She made it was very clear that this was fake. Bagley and the Provo police officer, Zach Lazenby, arrived at the scene knowing this information. They knew the gun was not real, and they shot Evans anyway. They shot him dead. He died from not 1, but 3 rounds fired from about 100 feet away. Let's think about that specific detail. A person was calling 911 and gave them a very clear, very specific warning. She said the gun is fake, and Bagley knew this before allegedly pulling his weapon. So investigators later determined that the weapon was an airsoft rifle with its orange safety tip removed. So basic facts were these: officers knew the gun was fake. Again, this is all allegedly, don't come for me. I'm just reading what I find. And they encountered Evans with a gun they knew was fake. And then they decided to shoot him over. And then it turned out it was exactly as fake as they'd been told it was. His story or the story his family tells, Evan's family rejected the police narrative that their son wanted to die that day. His mother said that he was the happiest he'd ever been. He was planning a Valentine's Day date with his wife. He had a young son. The family said the tactical vest Evans was wearing was actually a fishing vest he used for airsoft shooting, not evidence of a tactical preparation for a confrontation with the police. They said none of this made any sense. And guess what? Guess what? There were no body cameras worn at all, and not even any dash cam footage. So they showed up to that what they knew they were showing up to without a body camera on. Does that part sound familiar?
All right, your body cam footage that I reviewed appears to end while you're still on the roof. Do you know why that is?
I think the battery went dead. It was just right at that moment.
So that 27-minute and 35-second body cam that starts when you're at the Hall of Flags and ends while you're still on the roof, but haven't put the crime tape up yet, that's the only body cam you have that day?
Yes.
All right.
Does that sound a little bit familiar to you? Because the investigation was largely dependent on what the officers said happened, and there was no video anywhere to verify it. And here's what you should notice. You should notice something when there's no footage of what happened. Everything becomes what the officer decides to tell you it was because the other guy is dead. Bagley was placed on paid administrative leave while the department investigated it themselves. And then he moved into a quieter job at the university where Charlie Kirk was. He was put out of the spotlight, and he was supposed to be put away from the news cycle. And then 10 years pass, and another shooting happens, another suspicious shooting. And guess who's at the center of it again? Officer Bagley. This is worth sitting with for a moment. What does it say about somebody's judgment and credibility when they appear at the center of two separate, high-profile, controversial deaths as not just a bystander, as a central figure in both investigations, making decisions about evidence, testifying about what they saw, and shaping the narrative around what happened? Did lightning strike twice here, or what's up? What's going on with this? The Evans situation established a pattern. Bagley is really, really good at making very shitty judgment calls regarding weapons in each incident where a man ends up dead. And the pattern of no body camera footage in 2015, then in 2025, he shows up 10 years later with no real footage either because the battery died at the exact right moment. What about learning from your mistakes? What about charging your damn camera? Suddenly, no discrepancies about what he reported and when he reported it, with a random screwdriver appearing in testimony that wasn't mentioned on the radio. He wasn't thinking clearly there, but he was clear and confident enough in his judgment about whether a holster at the scene of a shooting mattered. Make it make sense. And suddenly, 10 months after Kirk, he's just mysteriously making a ton more money with another agency who also just so happened to intersect with him on the case. Listen, I'm no investigator at all. I'm just reading what I find. And I will also tell you, I grew up in North Jersey, where they filmed The Sopranos. Literally, I worked at the mall and they were always closing it because they had to film scenes from The Sopranos. I grew up in an Italian-American family, third generation. I know a thing or two about when shit is not right and when shit has shit written all over it. Reasons why people don't trust the police and why they believe in internal crime rings. Because, here, let's talk about this real quick while I got you here. And we don't have to agree on everything, but I appreciate you sticking with me and maybe even arguing with me in the comments so long as you're here. So cops do not get punished like everyone else. Police officers get lighter punishment than regular people. Let's just be so straight up about that. Sometimes they get their jobs back. Like Bagley, sometimes they even get promoted over and over again after ending somebody's life or doing something intentionally wrong. We also know cops protect each other. Police officers stick together and they don't report on each other. Unions and departments make it harder to punish bad cops. We love unions, but in this case, it makes it harder to punish the worst ones. And they often face no consequences. Name another job where you can end somebody's life and get paid time off. Women in America don't even get paid family leave to give birth. And you don't want them to have reproductive care. It's another story. But groups of cops commit crimes together. Sometimes entire police units get caught doing illegal things as an organized group, like stealing drugs, beating people. Sometimes they suggest it's just a few bad apples. The system protects itself. Police departments investigate themselves. They pay settlements with department money instead of holding individual officers accountable. So I think the only real lesson here is that they knew his history and they built this case around Bagley anyway. That choice reveals everything about what this institution values. And this is also the reason you need to become obsessed and used to, and it should become instinctual for you to record video during every interaction with a cop, during every immigration enforcement operation. The moment that there's no video, the story becomes whatever the cop decides to tell you it was. The disproportionate use of deadly force against Black and brown Americans in this country is also one of the clearest, most documented pieces of evidence of that failure. I also very much reject the argument that abolishing police would leave women and victims of DV or SA without. I believe in community-based resources like shelters, hotlines, unarmed crisis responders, and local support networks as being better equipped to provide support. So to me, the problem, it's systemic. And that's why I don't buy this Chris Bagley shit. But I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think. I want you to challenge me. I want you to share your POV. It's welcome here in the comment section. Share this video if it expanded your perspective, or if you think people need to know more about Chris Bagley. We are the first to cover this, and we need to get the word out because something doesn't add up. Ciao for now.